Mortal Kombat X has just been released and there's a large influx of players who have never played a NetherRealm game before. Some of these people are veterans in other fighting games, but a large number are completely new to competitive fighters. In light of this, I am going to release a short series of MKX general tutorials on crosscounter in the coming week geared towards fighting game veterans looking to get into the series, though I want the videos to be simple enough that new players can easily understand them. As a fighting game veteran myself, I am occasionally out of touch with the struggles of new players in a new game, so I encourage everyone to leave your comments in this video and future ones regarding elements of the game you struggle with and things you want me to cover in depth. For the time being, I will be following this schedule for my upcoming videos. In order to put myself on the same level as completely new players, I will be learning a new character myself in the process of creating these videos. I have chosen Dragon's Fire Liu Kang as I know nothing about him. He is an iconic character of the series, and I find it likely he will be able to demonstrate every single gameplay element I want to discuss. I will show how these general topics apply to Liu Kang, and also talk about how to apply them to your own character. This first video will cover the game's theoretical basic mechanics, and most topics will be covered in more depth in later videos. Mortal Kombat X is a 5-button fighting game. There are 4 attacking buttons referred to in-game as front punch, front kick, and back kick. For efficiency's sake, most people are referring to these buttons as 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. So on default inputs, the square or X button is 1, the triangle or Y button is 2, the cross or A button is 3, and the circle or B button is 4. You should get used to this notation now as I will be using it for the rest of the videos. The 5th button, block, is on R2 or right trigger by default. The block button must frequently be pushed in combination with other buttons, and thus if you're playing on pad, I highly encourage you to put it on a shoulder as soon as possible for accessibility. There are 3 additional buttons in the controller preset menu: Interact, Flip Stance, and Throw. These are not actually buttons but rather macros. Interact can also be performed by hitting 1 and 2, both punches, at the same time, but only if input shortcuts are on. Flip Stance can also be performed by hitting 3 and 4, both kicks, together. It's important to note that Flip Stance does not inherently do anything and is merely cosmetic. Finally, throws can also be performed by hitting 1 and 3. I'll talk more about these tools later. Use the macro or do button combinations based on your own preferences. There are also 3 options in the preset menu with brief descriptions under each. I advise you not to mess with these unless you're having execution errors that these specifically address. Hitting any of the attack buttons will result in a basic attack or normal. You can generally do different attacks depending on the direction you're holding while you hit the button. And a list of all basic attacks can be viewed in the move list. By hitting the buttons in particular predefined orders, you can form combo strings. These can also be viewed in the move list. Finally, by doing directional series followed by a particular button, you can execute a special move. Unlike Street Fighter, most special moves don't have differing strengths. Certain special moves, if inputted while holding the block button, will become enhanced special moves or EX moves. It's important that you hit the block button just before your attack button and hold it a moment when executing these. These moves cost 1 of your super bars but typically have dramatically superior properties to their normal versions. Meter is built through almost every scenario, but is built most rapidly while forcing the opponent to block your attacks. While a bar of meter is awarded to the player who gets the first attack. Meter can also be used on an X-ray, which costs all 3 bars and is executed by hitting the block and stance switch simultaneously, or block in both kicks if not using the macro. An X-ray can be likened to a super from Street Fighter. X-rays do high damage and are easy to land, but the meter consumed is often better used elsewhere. Certain EX moves have a hit of armor, which allows them to go through other attacks without getting interrupted. X-rays tend to have multiple hits of armor, and also break the opponent's armor if applicable. New to MKX from MK9 is the stamina gauge, located under the health bar. Stamina can be used to backdash for invincibility and escape, whereas forward dashing costs no stamina. If you input a forward dash with the block button, you'll get a run, which is like a forward dash but can be held or cancelled at any time, and consumes stamina for as long as you hold it. I'll be talking about running extensively later. Stamina is used for various other things, too. Interactables are parts of the stage that can be used with the interactable macro. Some interactables allow the player movement, others are attacks that can be used or even juggled into. Regardless, the interactable consumes half your stamina and cannot be used without at least that much. You can also input your interactable with block to give it a hit of armor at the cost of 1 super bar. You'll note that before you can even start practicing, you're forced to choose a variation. Your choice of variation will affect the special moves and sometimes the normals and strings of your character. Some variations will be good in particular matchups, but each requires you to weigh what you gain and lose compared to the others. Pick the one that best suits your playstyle. In Part 2 I will be covering applied game mechanics and the player's various options in-game. Remember to subscribe to Crosscounter and check out my channel, link in the description, if you like periodic MKX and Street Fighter 4 tutorials and tech videos.